Will Shipley might be onto the Eagles, but Clemson football is not going to see a dip in production at the running back spot with Phil Mafah taking over as RB1.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. My name is John Bivens. I'm your host. You can follow me over on Twitter right here at I am John Bivens. Catch up with all the Clemson stuff over there with our socials. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcast and over on YouTube. And we are a part of the amazing Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Here on the Locked On Clemson podcast, we are all sports, all passion, all of the time, and we are bringing you everything you need to know regarding Clemson sports. Today is Wednesday, May 8th. We're going to talk about our running back room. CBS dropped today, or yesterday, they dropped their power rankings in the ACC for football post-spring transfer window. We're going to dive into that. We're also going to kick off and go through our next segment of Worried Wednesday, where we're talking about what are we worried about as Clemson Tiger fans. It's going to be a great episode. Today's episode is, though, brought to you by our amazing sponsor, Monopoly Go. Game off, we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. This fast-paced game lets you team up with friends for tournaments to unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go today, now free on the Google Play or App Store. Game on. Welcome to the Locked On Clemson podcast. We're so glad that you're here. And so yesterday, for all our everydayers, if you listened yesterday on Tuesday, we talked about our quarterback room, right? We talked about Clemson football and how we have a really good quarterback room between all three quarterbacks, Cade, Christopher, and Pierman. But today, we want to move on. Let's move on to the next position. Our running back room is honestly pretty solid. You got to be happy with our running back room. Look, I know a lot of people last year, we're not going to be able to top last year's running back room. And fair, Will Shipley, Phil Mafah, two-headed beast. It's hard to beat that. It's really hard to beat those two. But now, as we're looking forward, we've got to realize there's always room for nets. There's always the next step. There's always the next day. Will Shipley would have never been as good, and we would have never known about him if the running backs before him didn't graduate, right? Phil Mafah would have never been as good as he is if we didn't know, or we wouldn't know about him if it wasn't for opportunities for him to step up. I'm here to tell you that our running backs coming in, we don't have to worry about much. I mean, obviously, Will Shipley is an amazing running back, drafted to the Philadelphia Eagles. Go Birds, fly Eagles, fly. I can't wait to see them. But in reality, when it comes to Clemson football in our running back room, there's a spot. We can be happy with where they're at. And so today, I just want to go through. We are pretty much, if you look at, there's a great resource out there called Our Lads, OURLADS. They have a potential starting depth chart for all Clemson football, all football teams, a lot of different sports, not just college, but also NFL. And according to their depth chart, and I agree with it, it's pretty accurate. According to their depth chart, we have 3 running backs on our depth chart. We obviously have more than that on the roster. But I just want to go through our top 3 on those depth chart, the top 3 running backs for Clemson this year, and kind of walk through why we don't have to worry about them. Why are we not as concerned about them? Why can we be confident in our team? And so we're going to dive into that and so much more. So let's start off. Our number 3, RB3, is a great player by the name of Keith Adams. Keith Adams is a absolutely great player. He's younger. Right now, he's a redshirt freshman. He'll be a sophomore next year. He's smaller, a little on the smaller size. He's 5'9", 215. He's a player. He's a star. He's a great running back. He's out of St. George, Utah, Pineview High School. Overall, I'm really a fan of this guy. I'm really am. He's played with us 2 different seasons in 22-23. Only appeared in 2 games. Only had 3 rushes for 21 yards. Last year he appeared in 7 games. Only had 11 attempts for 60 yards. Still, that's not terrible. Had the longest of 14 last year. This year, I think we might see him a little bit more, but he's not going to be great. But, I mean, he's not going to get a lot of playing time because of who's ahead of him. But I think he's someone he could be good. I really think that he could have a successful career, have a successful season. I think he's someone, if there's an injury to one of the two that we're going to talk about in a second, if one of the two running backs ahead of him get injured, Keith Adams is someone that we could be confident in. We can be confident in him getting the ball. You looked at him in the spring game, and he looked decent in that spring game. We'll go through the spring game in a second, where we're going to go through all the rankings, all their stats, how they did. But yeah, Keith Adams is someone that you've got to be happy with. You've got to be overall happy with how he's performing, and I really think he's someone that could be good. Moving on to RB2, the next one is a guy that we haven't seen a lot of, but I think we'll see more of this year, and that is Jay Haynes. Jay Haynes is he's electric, man. He's something. This past year, he only played in 3 games, 6 attempts total, 35 yards. But again, remember, he was behind Will Shipley and Phil Mafah, right? I mean, he's not going to get a lot of playing time, but he had 1 touchdown on his longest run was 17 yards. That came against Charleston Southern early in September. His touchdown was also against Charleston Southern early in September. Overall, he's a good player. I think he's going to do well. I think he's a good number 2. He's a good RB2. So Jay Haynes is not someone. I think if Phil Mafah goes down and Jay Haynes has to take over, I don't think there's anything to be that upset about. I mean, granted, this can be a drop-off. Phil Mafah's the starter, but overall, he's a great player. He's a great running back. I think we'll see him. I think fans will start to like him. I think he might be used a little bit out of the backfield. He's 5'11", that skinnier build of 185. I think we might see him a little bit more out of receiving out of the backfield, but overall, I think he's going to be good. Jay Haynes, Jay Haynes is a good RB2. And then our RB1. That gets to our RB1 and who is our starting, who's going to be the number 1 out of the backfield. None other than Phil Mafah. Phil Mafah, guys, this guy, if you haven't already, you're going to love him. You're going to be obsessed with him. He is a great, great running back. I know a lot of people are like, oh, Will Shipley, though, we're going to miss him. Guys, don't move on too quick. There was a time last year where Clemson fans, the majority of Clemson fans, were calling for Phil Mafah to be our RB1. I mean, there was a serious time with Will. She was struggling to get past the line. Will was struggling with fumbles. There was a time where Phil Mafah was called for that, was calling for, hey, we want Phil Mafah for the RB1. There was a period of time where a lot of people were looking at that, were wanting him, were hoping that he would take over. But I mean, so with all that being said, yes, we lost Will Shipley. Phil Mafah is going to be a great one to take over. When you look at his career season highs, he's had against Notre Dame in November last year, had 186 rushing yards. And let's also not forget about our bowl game against Kentucky. Will Shipley was out, and what he did there, he had 4 rushing touchdowns in December last year against Kentucky in the bowl game. He's had a longest run of almost 50 yards against Duke to kick off the season last year. Receiving yards, he isn't the receiver that Will Shipley was. Will Shipley was that dual threat backfield, could run and could catch. I think that's where Jay Haynes will come into play. I think he'll be more of our receiving backfield player. But Phil Mafah, he's a punisher. He reminds me a lot of Mike Tolbert. If you're from the Carolinas, you remember Mike Tolbert, played for the Panthers many years, played for the Baltimore Ravens a little bit. That build where you're going to go in, you're going to bounce off people, you're going to punish them, you're going to hit them, but he's taller than Mike Tolbert, I believe. He's 6'1", weighs 230. He's going to be a senior this year. Phil Mafah, I feel very confident. I feel very comfortable with Phil Mafah leading our running back room. So there are some people that's saying, oh, what are we going to do? Will Shipley's gone. How's our running back situation going to look? Guys, we have a new offensive line coach. We have an improved offensive line, and we have Phil Mafah leading the way. We don't have to be worried about our rush game. I think we're going to get back to the Clemson rushing game that we know that we've seen before. So I'm excited about that. You should be excited about that. It's going to be great. It's going to be really cool to see. And so in just a moment, we're going to dive in. CBS released their ACC rankings post-spring transfer window. So in just a moment, we're going to dive into that and see where they have Clemson standing. We'll be back in just a second. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust leads, LED lights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. With all the parts you need and the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. That's ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only applies and to U.S. customers. Grateful for that. Those sponsors for eBay Motors sponsoring here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. And so that's our running back room. That's the three that we should be excited about. I don't know if you could tell. I'm excited about these three. I'm excited about our running back room. It's not the double head monster of Will Shipley and Phil Mafah. No, we're going to get the single head monster of Phil Mafah tearing down people, bullying people, bully ball, rushing over them. So I'm excited about that. Now, the spring transfer portal's over. The spring transfer window has ended. It has came and gone, and we got 0 incoming transfers, which we've talked about a little, and we're going to talk about a little bit more later on in our Worried Wednesday. But that ACC, the CBS, their football program put out yesterday on Tuesday. They put out their ACC post-spring power rankings and where they put everybody in the ACC. So real quickly, we're going to go through. Don't forget, we got a couple new teams that we're going to talk about coming through with the ACC. And so we're going to go through them. We're going to rank them. We're going to rank these ACC football schools on where they have each of the performances, where they have all of them ranked, and where they have Clemson. So starting at the bottom, they have Stanford coming in at 17th. They've got them the lowest ranking in the ACC. At 16, they have Virginia, and that one hurts, right? Tony Elliott. We want him to be better. We want him to be good, but they have Virginia at 16. 15, they have Pittsburgh. Ain't it crazy that Pittsburgh has fell that far? Has fell this much just from a couple years ago, ACC tournament. I guess that was more than a couple, but it feels like they fell quick. Boston College, they got a new guy running the show. Bill O'Brien shows up. We're gonna see what can happen with Thomas Castellanos. It's gonna be exciting watching Boston College. I think they're a team. Honestly, I have them higher than 14th in my rankings, but they have them at 14th. 13th is Wake Forest. Wake Forest, if they're known for anything, it's quarterback play, right? So they got them at 13 there. 12, they have Duke. And this one I found interesting. Last year, Duke seemed like they were on the up and coming. I know lost a quarterback, lost a head coach. I get that, but at the same time, it's Duke. They're on the up and coming. I feel like they should have been a little higher than this. The next one is even more surprising for me. It's North Carolina. They have Chapel Hill at number 11 in the ACC, not even making the top 10. Mac Brown, been there forever, great coach, right? They were picked in the top 3 of the ACC 3 times between 2020 and 2023. It's very surprising to see them fall this far, just 2 years out of being picked in the top 3 preseason, now to 11th. 10 in Syracuse. They got the orange. They're very consistent middle of the pack, which is one of the worst spots to be. It's if you're going to be a team, you either want to be on the top or the bottom, because then you can make the improvements. When you're in the middle of the pack, it's a lot harder to make that jump. But Syracuse is stuck in that middle so often. Georgia Tech, the rushing school, kind of starting to throw the ball, not with the triple option. A little weird to see they're coming in at 9. And then the next 2 spots, we got the 2 other new additions to ACC football. They have California at 8. SMU at 7. So they got those there. We're excited to see how they will play in the travel situation, going to be in the ACC. And now 6, they have Louisville. All right, so Louisville's falling up to 6. Got to be cool. Making the ACC tournament or title game recently. It's seeing them at 6 is a little different. Number 5, Virginia Tech. Nothing big to add there. Number 4, NC State making a jump. You can see them coming up. They're playing well, so excited to see NC State. I can't stand them. One of my best friends, Anthony Morrow, is a big Wolfpack fan. You will see him as a guest and a host on this show later on through the offseason. He's a big NC State fan, so when he hops on, we'll talk through that. Number 3, Miami. Something about Miami has that, hey, Miami's going to be great, and then they underperform. Hey, Miami's going to be great, and they underperform. Miami's top 3 here. We'll see if they stick there. And then the top 2, what you've been waiting for, what we're going to talk about the most. The top 2, who they gave the top spot to in the ACC, they gave it to Florida State. They have Clemson at number 2, Florida State at number 1. And I got to think that the only reason that CBS and so many outlets are putting FSU as the favorite is the transfer portal. I don't know why, but I think just they're focusing so much on incoming talent, incoming prospects, incoming recruits, incoming transfers that they're looking where Clemson was, only getting some freshmen, not getting any transfers, and then where Florida State was getting transfers. I feel like that's what's putting Florida State above the way. But CBS even mentioned this. This is straight from their website, CBS Sports. It says there is definitely a 1A, 1B conversation to the ACC title race. And then it goes on about how Florida State gets it 1 now, but it's close. It's back and forth. I think it's very much they don't know who to pick, so we're going to throw FSU. And I think FSU gets that top spot for the sole reason of the transfer portal. And that's got to go about what you're worried about. And we're going to talk about that next segment in a couple minutes about what we're worried. But clearly, when it comes to Clemson, in order for them to take that 1 spot, Cade Klubnik has got to step up. We talked about that. He's got to use his talent. He's got to use what Garrett Riley's putting on the field, the calls that he's being there. He's got to get his mindset right. He's got to be focused. If Cade Klubnik can truly step up, Tigers make a big jump. Tigers will take that top spot within the first couple weeks. Honestly, I could see Tigers putting up a great performance against Georgia week 1, even losing and still taking that top spot in power rankings if they can show they're a different team. If they can show they're going to perform consistently, if they're going to show our defense is still as good, Cade Klubnik's made some jump. Bryant Wesco, our new freshman wide receiver, is going to jump out and make some plays. Our tight ends are making plays. Cade Klubnik stepping up. So I think Clemson, it's a 1A, 1B, but they have Clemson number 2. When it comes to Florida State, I'm not a Florida State fan. I'm not. Obviously I'm a Clemson fan, but honestly, I don't really like Florida State. I think their fans are annoying. Sorry if you're a Florida State fan listening to me. I apologize. Hey, the Locked On Florida State show is an amazing show. The host, he does an amazing job over there. Nothing on him, but I think some casual fans for Florida State can be a little annoying, but it's the same as all fans, right? Clemson, I love every single Clemson fan. We got some annoying fans. Let's be real. But I don't know. Something about Florida State, it just... I don't know. It feels like when they're successful, when they have success, it is all about them. They're only focused on them, and then when they're not, it's all about excuses and highlights go other places. I have a couple friends growing up that were FSU football, Chapel Hill basketball, and I don't know, I'm not a big fan of rooting for schools in different sports, like different schools, different sports, especially in the same conference. If you're going to root for like an ACC basketball and SEC football, whatever, I can look past that. But rooting for 2 different ACC schools in different sports just because of success and history, that throws me off. And so that might be a little biased coming from my results, coming from my past. That might be why. But I'm not the biggest fan of Florida State. But I am excited to see DJU. I'm excited to see him back in the ACC, playing against familiar opponents, familiar players, familiar stadiums, seeing if is he going to be the guy from Morgan State last year, that more consistent, more confident guy, or is he going to be who he was at Clemson, that guy that couldn't really complete where he was supposed to be and where he was at, couldn't make those mesh. So I'm excited to see that, excited to see where he lands. Right now, overall, though, they have Clemson at 2, FSU as 1. Again, 1A, 1B according to them. I think that could change. I really think that could change soon. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how performance goes. So, and we're excited to see that. In just a moment, we're going to continue this conversation, and we're going to dive into the Wednesday segment of Worried Wednesday. All right, game off. We got to pause here, and we got to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get. You can get unique stickers. You can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes. You can get cool new playing pieces to travel boards with. You can also get hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings or ice their vaults. I throw those emojis all the time when I heist my wife's vault. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure or robot machines. And there's also new timed events that help you win big. I mean, like massive multipliers for everything you win, even like multipliers for rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go, so get off the bench, go download it now for free on the Google Play and App Store. Again, free on the Google Play and App Store. Monopoly Go play it now. Game on. Our net sponsor is Yahoo Finance. Wouldn't it be great if you could see all of your investment and retirement accounts in one place? With Yahoo Finance, you can consolidate your views from multiple accounts into one hub and expert the expert analysis you need to tend to your entire portfolio with confidence. My wife and I just found out we are having a baby on the way. We are so excited. But as you know, when a baby comes, if you have children, it kind of gets to like, okay, we got to be serious about our finances. We have been before, but now we really got to nail it down. And Yahoo Finance is an amazing resource for us to help us prepare for the future, both investments and retirements. For more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just looking for extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you the tools and data you need in one place. With a community of over 90 million users each month, their real strength is helping you on your way to financial success. For comprehensive financial news and analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the number one financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That is yahoofinance.com. And we are back. Thanks so much for joining us. Again, thanks to those sponsors, Monopoly Go and Yahoo Finance. Hey, today, it is Wednesday. As every Wednesday or most Wednesdays, we end our episode with our Worried Wednesday. This is a segment where we go through and we take some kind of segment, some kind of thing about Clemson sports. What are we worried about? What are we really going through and being like, what do we got to do here? Like, what are we concerned about? And so when we're looking at it, there's a couple things we could focus on, and I'm sure we'll hit them. We could worry about PJ Hogg on the NFL or NBA and how that affects Clemson basketball. We could worry about Clemson baseball's bullpen. Every part of that team seems to be clicking right now. It's set their bullpen. They did get a big win last night against Charlotte, but their bullpen almost lost them that game, gave up a big lead, and then it caused Clemson to have to come back in the ninth inning. We could focus on those two, and we'll get to those. Today, I want to stick with this football theme. And our worried Wednesday is something we've already talked about a little bit, and it's Dabo's not using the transfer portal. This year, we had 13 players leave the program, and Dabo did not get one transfer for this offseason. Not one transfer. And I think there's this mentality of college football fans where they view transfers as like, oh, that's a way to fill holes. If you've got a backup that's gone, that's a way to fill them up. Kind of like a reserve, not really a starter, not a place for your main players, but more of like a reserve to fill in the holes to complete a team. Here's a crazy stat. Out of the last 7 Heismans in college football, do you know 5 of them are transfers? 5 of the last 7 Heismans were transfers. And with that stats, how are we not using the transfer portal? I don't understand how Dabo Swinney, the amazing coach that he is, has not found himself in the portal when you see that the top players are in there. Players making a difference for teams are in that portal. With Clemson having a couple disappointing seasons, we should be there. We should be in the portal. We should be bringing in the players. We should be bringing in extra talent to come support the talent that we already have. I'm worried about it. If you're a Clemson fan, you've got to be worried. Why are we not in the portal? And so I want to go through, and let's just go through. There was the top 10 transfers from this offseason. This past offseason, the top 10 transfers that almost every one of them could have helped us. So number 10 was Nick Scorton. He was at Purdue. He's now at Texas A&M. He's the number one edge rusher. He's a great edge rusher. I get not going after him. We already have a great defensive line. Dabo has proved he can build up DL with how many people he's had drafted. I'm okay not going after him. The next one, Julian Sayin. Yesterday, we talked about our quarterback room and how stacked it is, but you're telling me you wouldn't want an extremely talented quarterback to come in from Alabama. Look, I don't think he'd go to Clemson. Cade Klubnik's a starter there, but he was at Alabama. Then he went to Ohio State. Another quarterback was Washington State. He's actually going to an in-conference rival. He's going to Miami. He left Washington State, and he's going to Miami this year. Hey, this guy, he's playing really well. In his career, he's had 14,000 career passing yards, 119 touchdowns. Mario is going to have a great time with him over there. And all of these rankings, by the way, are coming from Sports Illustrated Fan Nation. Number 7 was another quarterback. He's had even more yards. Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma going to Oregon. He had almost 15,000 career passing yards with 125 touchdowns. Granted, that's across 5 seasons, but still, he's playing really well. He was a transfer. Isaiah Bond, this is one that I wish we'd have got. This is probably my number 3 on this board. This is probably my third that I wish we'd have picked. He was a great wide receiver from Alabama. When they asked him what caused him to transfer, he said it was because Nick Saban retired. He's going to Clemson or going to Texas, play with Quinn Ewers. He's a great wide receiver. I think he's going to be great in the slot. I would love to see him, but he's not. He's going over to Texas. Evan Stewart, this guy's another wide receiver. I personally like Isaiah Bond a little bit better, but Sports Illustrated had Evan Stewart there at 5. He's leaving Texas A&M, going to Oregon as well. He's going to be teaming up with Dylan Gabriel over there, a great wide receiver there. And then number 4, Quayshawn Judkins. This player is listen to this stat. You ready? He is the first SEC player in the SEC football history to score 15-plus touchdowns in each of his first 2 seasons with the school. There's been some amazing running backs come through the SEC. There's been some amazing ones, but him being the first one to do that, that's big. He is leaving Ole Miss, and he is transferring to Ohio State. Hate to see that, but again, this is another one. He's a great running back. Obviously, stats prove it. It'd be nice to have him as another dual head. I'm comfortable, as we talked about earlier, with our running back room. I'm right not getting him. This stat right here is the number 1 position that I wish we would have got. This is the number 1 player I wish we could have brought him in, and it is Caden Proctor. He is a great offensive tackle. I mean, he is a stud. He plays left tackle. He got SEC freshman team last year, and he's leaving Alabama, going to Iowa. He's going to get a lot of playing time in Iowa on the offensive line. Man, we need help on the offensive line. As soon as he went in the portal, I was like, Clemson, come on. That would be such a great first transfer for Dabo, but he didn't do it. Number 2, they have Walter Nolan, leaving Texas A&M, going to Ole Miss. He's the number 1 defensive tackle. Again, great player. Wouldn't complain about having him. But we're good DLU, right? We're good on defensive line. And then number 1, they have ranked the number 1 player in the transfer portal, another one from Alabama going to Ohio State, is Caleb Downs. Downs is a defensive back, and he's a physical one, but he's really good. He's talented. He's my second one. He'd been number 2 that I wish we would have got in the transfer portal. Look, why did I just go through that? Why did I just go through all these portals? There's great players. I named 10 players in the transfer portal out of 2,000. 10 players. There is talent there. We've got to be worried about the future of Clemson football when it comes to the transfer portal, because that's a part of the day. That is officially college football has to do with the transfer portal. You better believe in the new NCAA game coming out in July, there's going to be transfer portal. It's a part of the game. It's the culture. It's what's happening. If Dabo wants to continue being a top coach in the nation, which he is, If he's anywhere outside of your top 2 coaches in the nation, you're incorrect. Because, I mean, that's who he is. Him and Kirby deserve 1 and 2. The order's up to you. I put him 1, obviously, but it's up to you. Overall, if he wants to stay there, he's got to learn to utilize the transfer portal. And that's why today our Worried Wednesday is Dabo Swinney, a coach that I love, I respect. I don't want him to go anywhere. So proud. It's so amazing, heartwarming hearing him not even take an interview at Alabama. He's got to utilize his transfer portal. He's got to. Got to. And with that take, that will wrap up this edition of the Locked On Clemson podcast. Tomorrow's episode, we're going to dive into our wide receiver room. We've walked through quarterbacks. We've walked through running backs. Tomorrow, we're going to go through the wide receivers, see who we got there. Hey, today, though, let me know your thoughts on today's topics. Hit me up on Twitter. I am John Bivens over on X. Hit me up over there. Love to hear your thoughts, your feedback on the day. Leave a comment on YouTube. Let us know over there. We appreciate all interaction. We'd love to interact with you over there. If email's more your speed, email me, thetigerwire@gmail.com. Either way, I'd love to reach in contact with you. I'd love to reach out and be in communication, get to know some of our everydayers listening here on the Locked On Clemson podcast. If you haven't, make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening at, audio or video format. Hit a like, rate us 5 stars, drop a comment, share it with your friends. Bring some other Clemson fans in. Let's grow this community. Let's grow this environment and this team of Locked On Clemson podcast. But thanks so much for being here. That way, if you subscribe, it can be your first listen here every day. You can hear more about Clemson Monday through Friday, every day here on Locked On Clemson. But we can't wait to see you tomorrow's episode. Until then, keep that Tiger pride alive and roaring. And as always, go Tigers.